Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. So it's official. The meeting between President Trump and President Putin has been scheduled for August 15th this year. But let's go back to yesterday and a quick question from one of the journalists before the official date for that meeting was announced.
We're going to be announcing later on, we're going to have a meeting with Russia. We'll start off with Russia, and we'll announce a location. I think the location will be a very popular one for a lot of reasons.
With this meeting with Putin, is this Russia's last chance to achieve peace? And do you expect Ukraine to make any type of territorial concession?
Yeah, I don't like using the term last chance. Look, it's, look, this is two very, very smart people. They've been going at it and their predecessors also very smart. They've been going at it for 35 years. It's tough. And, when those guns start going off, it's awfully tough to get them to stop. I will say that Europe wants to see peace. The European leaders want to see peace. President Putin, I believe, wants to see peace, and Zelensky wants to see peace. Now, President Zelensky has to get all of his everything he needs, because he's going to have to get ready to sign something, and I think he is working hard to get that done. Well, you're looking at territory that's been fought over for 3.5 years with, a lot of Russians have died, a lot of Ukrainians have died. So we're looking at that, but we're actually looking to get some back and some swapping. It's complicated. It's actually nothing easy. It's very complicated, but we're going to get some back. We're going to get some switched. There'll be some swapping of territories to the betterment of both. And but we'll be talking about that either later or tomorrow or whatever.
So that was yesterday. Now let's jump straight to the Russian news outlet, to TASS, and let's read this article about this coming meeting in a little bit more than a month. August 9th, that is today, Kremlin confirms that Putin-Trump summit to take place in Alaska on August 15. It seems quite logical that our destination should simply fly across the Bering Strait, and that such an important and long-awaited summit between the leaders of the two countries should be held there, Kremlin-eyed Yuri Ushakov said. Russian President Vladimir Putin and his US counterpart Donald Trump will meet in Alaska on August 15th, Kremlin-eyed Yuri Ushakov told reporters. The US side has just announced that an agreement has been reached to organize a meeting between Russian President Vladimir Putin and US President Donald Trump on August 15th on Friday in Alaska. Russia and the US are close neighbors bordering each other. It seems quite logical that our delegation should simply fly across the Bering Strait, and that such an important and long-awaited summit between the leaders of the two countries should be held there. Earlier, Trump said that he hoped to meet with his Russian counterpart in Alaska on August 15th. The US president made this announcement on his Truth Social page. This will be their first face-to-face meeting since Trump returned to the White House in January 2025. On August 7th, Kremlin-eyed Yuri Ushakov announced that Russia and the US had agreed to a meeting. So this is repeating this again. And that's what I believe that visit of Steve Witkoff was about. This picture, I think, has been taken in 2018, if I'm not mistaken, in Helsinki, probably. I think that was the meeting they had. So guys, this is official. I would like you to stay with me all the way to the end of this video, because I think it would be nice to revisit why Russia has sold Alaska to the United States. I came across this video that is a historical channel, but presents the historical data and I believe facts, because I question everything in history lately, as we were taught. Presented in a way that is easy to listen to. It's a not long video, and it's a form of animated cartoon, so I think you will enjoy it. But before we go there, I would like to look at something else. I am very much about symbols, numbers. I don't think anything is a coincidence, even how they choose the dates. There might be some more esoterical reason for it, because that's how the deep state operates. However, if Trump administration or whoever was in the decision making has chosen this date, I wanted to see what significance in history August 15 had. So for the United States, on August 15th, the United States has been involved in several historical events related to war, most notably the end of World War II. Specifically, while Japan's surrender was announced on August 14th in the US, August 15th is considered VJ Day in many allied countries and is celebrated as such in the US as well. Now there is another information here, Vietnam War. The Case Church Amendment, which set August 15th as a deadline for the end of US military involvement in Vietnam, Laos, and Cambodia, effectively ended US military offensives in Vietnam on this date. So this is pretty symbolic, don't you think? No more US involvement in Ukraine. Has Putin cleaned this up completely? I wouldn't be surprised, but this will be really, really big day, not just for Putin and Trump, Russia and US and Ukraine, but everyone else who willingly or not willingly is involved in that conflict. And on that note, we have an official invitation for the new Polish president that just came from the White House. So let's read this, everyone. Let me just refresh it so then I can translate this for you. From Polish portal money.pl, US President Donald Trump officially invited President Karol Nawrocki to the White House. The working meeting is scheduled for September the 3rd this year. So this will be after Putin-Trump meeting, a little bit less than a month. This was reported by Paweł Szafranmaker, the head of the president's cabinet, on the X portal. The head of the cabinet emphasized that the invitation was conveyed in a congratulatory letter during Nawrocki's swearing in, but the date is specific already. Let me close this. Karol Nawrocki had already announced that his first foreign trip as president would take place in the USA. Initially, it was planned that the visit would take place in the second half of September during the UN General Assembly session in New York. Now it is known that the trip to the USA will take place earlier. In an official congratulatory letter handed over on the day of the swearing in US, President Donald Trump invited Polish President Karol Nawrocki to the White House, and we know this already, for an official visit. Now, this will be his second meeting with Trump. The meeting at the White House will be the second meeting between Nawrocki and Trump. The first one took place in May before the elections. President Trump said, "You will win." And so he said, "I would win." That's what Nawrocki said. I interpreted it as a kind of wish for my success, the upcoming elections. This is how Nawrocki said about the meeting with Trump on TV Republika. However, it was not said how long the meeting really lasted. On 10th of June, Nawrocki, still as a president-elect, informed that he had a telephone conversation with US President Donald Trump at the time. So this was after he was already president-elect. The election was on June 1st. At that time, he stated that he had invited Trump to Poland and had also received an invitation to a meeting at the White House. So I want to show you this first meeting they had and then a little bit commentary from me, guys. Let me just go back here. So the first time they met in May, before the elections on June 1st. 1 second. It was right here. And all we could really see were those photographs. There was no recording as far as a video, not as I'm aware of. And this photo was, this picture was circulating around the social media. So now, my little comment here, everyone, about this situation. Like I said in my last solo video, in which I was showing you his inauguration in Warsaw, I want to say this. Clearly, this is, Trump has, in my opinion, selected him to be the president of Poland. That's how I feel. People have chosen him, of course, people voted. However, we know that the moment of him becoming the president, my opinion here, and that the change of the government into new government will reshape a lot of the Polish political scene, in my opinion. It might take some time. However, this conversation between Trump and Putin, you know, I take it seriously because I don't think none of them, especially Putin, is going to meet with Trump if he does not see or believes that something will come out of it in a way that will benefit Russia. The same way Trump is thinking. And as I said many times, in my opinion, they are both fighting the same evil, and something must have been done if they are meeting. Something had been cleaned up, because this will be important, very important. After that, he's meeting with Polish president. And I'm telling you, Poland will maybe pay the price too, but will play a big part in whatever comes after that. I have a sense we're going to experience, to some extent, a replay of Yalta, you know, that meeting in Yalta that was between three leaders, right? Three leaders. Stalin, Churchill, and Roosevelt. And what came after that? That's another story. How this will go this time, we will see. Now, I would like to take you to this video about Alaska, because it's very interesting. Why Russia even got rid of Alaska? Such a beautiful state. I had the pleasure to be there many, many times. A little personal sharing, if you don't mind. Years and years ago, when I was really young, I used to work on the cruise lines, on the cruise ships, and I used to take a lot of, as an employee, I was a crew member. I took so many cruises to Alaska. Even we went from Caribbean through Panama Canal all the way the Mexican Riviera, California, all the way up to Alaska. So I've seen quite a number of places, and it was really a while back. And I never forget, I don't know how it is now. If anyone is watching from Alaska, please let me know in the comments down below. I never forget almost the taste of the fresh air. When we docked and we, went out on the land and we could explore it for several hours, and I took breath and I smelled the air, I could almost taste it. It was so clean, it was so pure, it was beautiful. I don't know how it is now, but I have great memories with Alaska. So guys, let me play you this video. This is very cool history lesson. And then I want to make some announcements. So let's go to the history lesson right now.
In late 1867, Alaska was transferred from the ownership and dominion of the Russian Empire to the United States of America. It was sold for the princely sum of $7.2 million, and for most it's just a footnote in history. A question that should be asked is, why did Russia decide to sell its overseas colony? Furthermore, why did it sell it to the United States and why not, say, Britain or some other colonial power? So the primary reason for the sale of Alaska was Russia's defeat in the Crimean War. The war had done several things. The first was that it had largely bankrupted Russia, which was struggling to repay the debts it had racked up in order to fight the war. The second was that the victories of the Royal Navy over the modernising Russian Navy had made it clear that Russia had a long way to go before it could challenge Britain at sea. As such, it was realised by the Russian leadership that should another war break out, there was little to stop Britain from simply conquering the territory via Canada. So what type of territory was Alaska? For a start, it wasn't called Alaska at the time, but simply Russian America. And for the Russian Empire, it provided several things. First of all was the prestige that came with owning an overseas territory. As for its economic benefits, Alaska was a much more mixed bag, which combined with the cost to protect it, you can see why the sale was seen as necessary. Incidentally, the sale of Russian America was broached by Emperor Alexander II's brother, the Grand Duke Constantine, who wanted to strengthen and liberalize the empire in the wake of the defeat in the Crimean War. It didn't take much to convince the emperor to agree to the sale, but now the question was, to whom? Well, Britain was an obvious contender, given that its North American lands were already attached to Russian America, and they already had the right to navigate its waters and trade with the colony. So why didn't they sell to Britain? Well, Russia and Britain were imperial rivals, and to give Britain a large coastline so close to Russia was potentially dangerous. Also, Britain wasn't interested, since Canada is already huge and Britain had enough access to the Pacific Ocean. Thus, the United States of America was really the only likely candidate for the purchase. Russia had approached the US in the early 1860s concerning the purchase, but they were undergoing this little-known event called the American Civil War, and so were a bit busy. After the war was settled and the US had to deal with the issues of reconstruction, the purchase of Alaska was seen as a useful distraction. The Russian Empire was also keen to keep up the ongoing good relations with the Americans, because as an ally they would be useful. It was agreed in March 1867 between the governments of the US and Russia that Alaska would be bought, but how did they come up with the price? Well, Russia had sent a team of surveyors to look for things like natural resources and to see how good life in Alaska was. And it was determined that Alaska was worth about $10 million. However, the surveyors argued that Alaska shouldn't be sold at all and that the governance of it simply be reformed. The emperor ignored this and both sides negotiated until the sum of $7.2 million was agreed. In October 1867, it was transferred to America, and Russia's attention would thereafter be focused to the south and to the west. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and thank you for watching, with extra thanks to my patrons that you see on screen now, and especially.
So that's a pretty cool history lesson, isn't it? So I wonder how much, I didn't look it up, so you can put in the comments down below. $10 million or 7.5, what was the final amount, right? In that time, in that year, how much would it be now? What do you think? What would be the price for Alaska? Very interesting, the choice of the location. I feel it's a very symbolic one because it really highlights, you know, for many people, I think, if they ask themselves why they are meeting in Alaska, and then maybe they go to the history lesson and they say, oh, in that time, actually, Russia and United States, they were on a good terms. Russia actually helped United States during the Civil War. Well, it was not United States, but, you know, helped to not be completely conquered by France or UK, right? Or Britain. So there is so much to look into. Maybe that's one of the reasons. I really don't know. Let me know what you think, guys. But that's all I have for you today. I will attach the links, of course, down below in the description box. And on that note, I would like to show you the live stream I had yesterday for the first time with two ladies, but it was my second time with Barbara Boyd, but this was actually with Promethean Action. So if you go to, sorry for the commercial, if you go to the live categories on my channel, you will see it. We had it yesterday. The ladies were very generous with their time. They went over an hour, and I hope you will appreciate as much as I do their knowledge and their opinion about current events and what's going on, especially with United States and the battle with the British monarchy. And one more thing I want to ask you, those of you who have Instagram, if you would like to follow me there, I would really appreciate. You just go to Anya K_44 and follow me there. You can see some travels. You see some places in the world lately, from Kraków in Poland, a beautiful city. And that's all I have for you today, everyone. Thank you so much for watching. So yeah, the meeting is taking place. Hopefully it will all go well. And the result of it will be a good one, which means no more killing people on none of the sides. Thank you so much. Hit the thumbs up if you appreciate the content. Subscribe if you haven't already. Leave the comments down below and let me know. And if you choose to support me, the best way is to become my Patreon. You have the link down below as well. You can become Locals member or simply donate on PayPal. Lots of love, and remember, we are the leading edge and we are saving humanity. And I see you in another video. Bye, everyone.